Welcome everybody to Project You, Project Me, the FTG guide to self-belief and self-coaching. Why not come along and listen to people like you, people like me, leaving legacies for your future. Hello everybody and welcome to Project You, Project Me, removing that fear for people who perhaps are transitioning, be it service people, spouses, people who are still serving actually, and now the police force. And today we want to welcome Emily Williams, who's done a little bit of work with the FTG, and clearly we are going forward into April to do a lot more work. And Emily is a fantastic person and has been on the FTG job phase, kind of encouraging people on how the transition can actually work for them. But Emily, welcome. How are you?
I'm brilliant. Thanks for having me, John. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, I'm excited about this, but I'm also excited about all the new technology you're going to bring to the FTG and all these people that are leaving, and hopefully we can, move that forward and start creating some new ways of doing stuff. But more to come on that, I guess. But to
Yeah.
start off, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where you've come from, childhood, where you served, all that kind of stuff.
So I'm originally from Staffordshire. When I was growing up, I was like really, really into music, played the saxophone, clarinet, piano, and at the end of all that, I just really wanted to pursue my music. I went and studied at Edinburgh Uni, went and did my music degree. And then after that, I was just really looking for a really good option for me to continue doing my music, whilst at the same time having like a clearer career path,
Mhm.
because a lot of musicians are freelance or they go into
Yeah.
teaching, and that both of those options weren't really for me.
Mm.
So I came across Army Music and it was like the perfect option. And personally, I was really excited about the career prospects within that as well. And also being able to access lots of different kind of environments and different things, really being able to like learn to ski and all of that. So I've really enjoyed a 10-year military career. I was in Army Music the whole time.
Yeah.
But after at the very end of my career for the last 4 years, I helped found a recruitment and engagement team within my corps. So the purpose of that was to go out and to engage with lots of different musical communities, and build relationships and partnerships with music professionals. They might be working in a university or for a
Mm.
youth music group, so that we could hopefully attract and engage like a new audience into Army Music.
Wow. Wow. Is that still going?
And it's still going, which I'm so proud of the fact that it's still going even though I'm not there. Yeah, it was really good. Like it was just all about thinking outside the box and just getting it was like one of those jobs in the army that I'm just so grateful that I got to do. And I loved like working and recruiting like young people. It was really nice.
Well, that's paramount to what you've done then, because if it's still going and you've left and you've created that longevity, that's fantastic. But perhaps why you're being successful now, people are probably noticing that in all kinds of different arenas, I'm sure. And moving on to what you're doing now, what is it you do now?
So I currently work for a tech startup. So a lot of that kind of founders mentality that I suppose I had when I helped set up the engagement team is now the mindset that I have to have here.
Yeah.
So I work for a tech startup as their people and culture manager. So in another speak, that would be HR manager.
Mhm.
But I think the title people and culture makes you focus into slightly different areas. And the purpose of that role is to work with an early stage company to found their HR department. So you're looking at growing the number of people. So you're looking at growing your headcount. You're looking at all the kind of formalities that you might need to support people in their roles. Um, I work quite closely with like the strategy lead. So looking at what the company wants to do over the next 6 months to a year, particularly because it's early stage, and focusing in on how we're going to support people deliver that vision. So ensuring that every single role is really focused in on like what they need to do. Um, and and then the culture side, which I would say is building sense of like team cohesion, building like supporting your managers with how they're working with people and working with your teams as well, so that there's, everybody's working together nicely, which is what I think we do well in the army. So
Wow. Well, that's like a classic transition using your great skill that you've already developed and then bring
yeah,
that straight into the civilian sphere. So yeah, it's
yeah.
fantastic. Sounds brilliant. And as for service people, is there a way into that? Are you looking for service people? Is there opportunity within your arena to maybe come to you and look at how other people could get into that arena?
Yeah. So I would say if someone's looking at if somebody wants to go into that startup world and they want to be involved with a tech company, and if, by the way, you wouldn't necessarily need to be extremely tech savvy to get started. A lot of it's quite intuitive. And actually,
Hmm.
once you're there for 6 months, you're probably going to acquire the skills that you need anyway. I would
Yes.
recommend to anybody who's like looking at this kind of industry to look at some of like the foundation roles. Typically, they don't have massive salaries attached to them,
Mhm.
but if you've got other skills and within a year of working at somewhere like where I'm working, you can really grow and snowball what you're doing.
Mhm.
And typically within a kind of startup, they give you a lot more autonomy and freedom to actually go and explore your field,
Mm.
because they want you to grow, they want you to be outside the box. So I actually have a role at the moment, a sales development representative that I'm looking for. That role is for somebody who wants to start off building client relationships for a company, doing a lot of the groundwork, and it is 100% like the greatest starting role if you wanted to go into like business development within a tech startup.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to have a look at that, they could just get in contact with you and then you could go
Mm,
from there. Yeah, that's
yeah.
interesting. I would ask anybody if they're thinking about that to get in touch with you because, why not?
Mm,
These
yeah.
conversations, that hunter mentality we talk about all the time, go and ask them questions. Oh, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Um, and I guess before we start moving forward, this would be a good chance to relay or lay up what we're about to do in April. So, just in, I suppose, 30 seconds to a minute, can you explain some of the things that we're going to be bringing, or you're going to be bringing to the FTG and to transitioners in the next kind of, I suppose, 60 days?
Yeah. So I'm really interested in free apps that are out there that can kind of help me do my job better or help me present myself in a better way. So there's a few little tech savvy apps that I like using. The first one is called Canva. I use it in my job all the time. I use it to put out all my internal
Yeah.
communications. Really smart tool, and it kind of their mission as a company is to like democratize uh, design.
Yeah.
So it gives you like that really professional edge, and it also cuts
Wow.
out a lot of my lead time with like working with the marketing department because I can just do it myself.
Mm.
But for you out there, it's a really, really great tool to develop a really smart looking CV. So if you sometimes see someone's CV and you're wondering like, how did they get it like in all the little boxes with all the little lines? This is how to do it. And for a recruiter, who's reading like these over and over again, when you get someone who lays out in a really nice systematic order, it just really helps you for that 30
Mm.
seconds that you're looking at it in all honesty,
Yeah.
take taking the information you need a lot quicker.
Mm.
Um, and then the other thing would be, so within my role, I use like Chat GPT. This can really help you get some of, when you're sitting in front of that blank page and you don't know where to start,
Mm.
and the first bit that comes out sounds rubbish. This is a great place to start, get a few lines out, and I can sort of explain how that works.
Mm.
And then I've got a couple of other apps that I like using, and it might give you some more creative ideas as to how you can express yourself and sell yourself at interview as well. And also by having a knowledge of these apps, it would help your employer know that you've already thought about how you're going to communicate within your company, like
Mm.
as you move over.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I know you showed me a couple of these little video things and stuff like that, and I was like, wow, it's going to change, the way that I do things. I've got no doubt. So you know, I'm going to be really, really interested when we do that. And I have tried out Chat GPT, which you showed me. I've been messing
Yeah.
around with that in the corner. You know, when I get a bit of free
Yeah.
time, it's a magic tool.
Oh
How
yeah, it's like
how
my assistant now.
I know I put stuff in there and I think, oh, I'll never churn this out, and it just does. And I'm like, wow, this is brilliant. And it definitely will help people. I've got no doubt. But a question I always ask everybody: when you were in the forces, were you a sleepwalker or were you a hunter as you were leaving, or did you really, really, you know, dig deep way before you left?
So I would say 100% a hunter. So I really feel like I resonate with FTG because you always mention about from the beginning of your career, you should always be thinking about leaving. And I think that's definitely something that I kept at the heart of
Mhm.
my my time in the military. So while I was there, I did a master's in law anyway, and I did it kind of because I had free time and I didn't have a family and I just
Yeah.
wanted to keep growing. So I did that completely off my own back. I didn't use any military support for that. And then as I was leaving, I was just what I did to leave was really map out what my experience was in the army. So I sat down and really evaluated like I'm doing recruiting at the moment. I'm working with lots of different people outside of my organization
Mm.
and I'm good at setting things up. So when I started to look at like what I was really doing, and understand what I was doing already at the moment and how could I link that across, that was my starting point. But at the same time, we live a very specific kind of lifestyle in the military where we're quite nomadic and we're quite happy to be moved around and work on the army's timelines.
Mhm.
What I wanted to do was regain a bit of control in my own life. So I wanted a company where I could work from home. That this was before pandemic, so I wanted to know it was a company or a job that I would be more likely to be able to ask for remote working. I wanted there to be the opportunity to work flexibly, and I wanted something where I could continue to grow a career out of it.
Mhm.
And there were lots of different branch points that I could take. So in like 5 years, I might be able to deviate down a different route. And I
Mhm.
wanted to know I had that flexibility. So for me, after kind of really like thinking it through, I decided to go into HR because it also made sense. And I think sometimes you have to make when you've got a family or when you're leaving after a long career, maybe you have to make a career decision. You know, I've already been lucky that I've got to do music and that was my passion. But now I'm able to bring all of that skills and all of that military experience into my next role in my
Mhm.
next career and build in a
Mhm.
different way.
Yeah, it's really interesting to listen to you say that through transition actually is, you know, what you were all about. And actually proves the theory that we talk about all the time that if you can provide your future before you leave, if you actually turn up at the starting gate, I've signed off, already prepared, then we don't need all of this stuff at the end, really. What we need to
Mm,
do um, is just create that, and then all of a sudden we're ready to step over the line. You know, because very few companies ever do this. You know, I was talking to the police force yesterday, and they haven't got anything. So how are they all just
mm,
stepping out in the jobs? You know, you don't work for, I don't know, Marks and Spencers for 30 years and then they give you 12 months off to sort your life out when you're leaving. So, you know, why do military people need that so much when we've got the opportunity and we've written
mm,
JSPs on it to say we're supposed to do this through service? And what we're finding um, with people is many people who are being successful now coming through the FTG are saying, listen, 60 minutes is probably all I needed. And then
mhm,
people have all done what you've done. They've gone through service and started to master what it is they want to do by the time they get to the end. And then they do
mhm.
simple things like the CV with us, and it just kickstarts everything off. And if we
Yeah.
put some reality behind that, some mentorship, so some real mentorship, not this, you can have a phone call if you want, some real mentorship, then the person's just going to
Mhm.
naturally, you know, evolve and go to where they want to, you know, go to. But if you leave and you've left everything to the end, it's always going to be a struggle. And
Yeah.
that's the problem with having that piece at the end. Everyone's just going to rely on it. And when you're
Yeah.
relying on something and it doesn't work for you, then you're going to blame it because you haven't owned it.
Yeah. I feel like it's in that preparation.
Yeah,
So when you prepare to do something, you know, almost like that army phrase, like prepare to move,
yeah,
move.
yeah,
And there's that 2 second like pause before you then say move.
yeah.
The preparation that you do, like also you don't need to even put pen to paper to write CV while you're in that stage,
Hmm.
or your CV doesn't need to come first.
Hmm.
It's more like already once you're focused on like this is where I'm going,
Hmm.
you can do everything to work towards that. So like for instance, the minute I signed off and I gave 2 years notice, I started my CIPD qualification.
Hmm.
And through doing that, that's the by the way, like any kind of profession you want to go into, you're probably likely to find there's a qualification that goes with it, like
Yeah,
a professional one that if you look
absolutely.
at going into construction, into anything, there's always a chartered body that will go
Hmm.
with that. So once you find that and you find the level of qualification that you need to do, and that might be because of how many years experience that you've already got
Yeah,
working, or it might be because of the kind of level of education that you've got, you'll be able to phone them and speak to the people who deliver that training, and they will guide you on that.
yeah,
So you don't need to work that out for yourself. But once you've started on that professional qualification, firstly, that is going to give you a massive key into whatever profession you want to go into, because it looks like commitment from this individual, and people aren't taking such a gamble on you because your experience doesn't directly match across. But also it starts to get your head in the game. So once you start to understand that profession, and by doing these types of qualifications, and I would always be an advocate for going for like the harder route doesn't always look like, you know, sometimes it's not always the easiest route to get there that
yeah.
lands you the actual quality product at the end. But say you do make that choice, you'll start mapping over like, oh, like for me it was like performance management I started learning about, and I was like, oh, this is like the reports in the army, but I've
Hmm.
never called it performance management.
Yeah,
And then when you look at disciplinaries and grievances in HR, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's the A guys.
yeah,
And then you can see how actually the military is a carbon copy of Civvy Street. When you go over to Civvy Street, there is nothing there that you haven't already experienced.
yeah,
You just use completely different words to do it.
yeah.
And actually, very often the systems that the military have got in place are very systematic, very logical. We've had JSPs, which are all written in the same format.
Hmm.
And it actually makes quite a nice foundation for you to then use all of that to go over.
Hmm.
So it's not about turning your back on 22 years of experience or 10 years or 4 years, whatever you've got. It's about looking at what you've got and actually how that is already a backbone for what you're going to go on to do next.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic to listen to. You give some good examples there, but it's one of the biggest problems. People just don't see it
Yeah,
because it's called
it's
something
not,
else.
they haven't come up with their own ideas.
Yeah.
It's probably their best kept secret.
Yeah. Well, an insular world starts that, so the military. So I try to say to people all the time, get out of this bubble, because what you don't want to do in the military is, come from an insular world, which it is, totally
Mm,
different to everything else, different words, same stuff, but different words. Don't land yourself in another insular world when you get out. Be very
mm,
careful who you choose to help, because a lot of the people out there who are perhaps, doing some good stuff can put you into another place where it's just loads of military people.
mm.
Well, actually, that's great, but we want real world as well. We need
Yeah,
real business leaders. We need real people to tell us what it is that they're after and what the opportunities are there for. And then we can start to fit the two together. But if you go into another military world, then you're just moving the problem and you're never going to find it. And that's
yeah.
where a lot of people struggle. But that brings us nicely to the self-belief booklet, the Project You,
Mm.
Project Me booklet that were released a few months ago, which has had about 2,000 downloads now, which is fantastic. How did you see that? Was anything interesting in there that would have helped you?
Yeah, so I think that's a really nice point, that while I would recommend that to anyone like while they're in the military, or if you've left and you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
sugar, I should have started this a while ago. Um, just working through that, I think, will help you do what maybe I did and I didn't realize I was really doing. So it's just helping you almost like take a top to bottom assessment of like your skills, your career, your experience,
Mhm.
and then project that forward. And, just gives you the opportunity to map that out really.
Mhm.
And then from that, you might be able to sit back and join up the dots and go, ah, this is the next route for me, which
Yeah,
is really cool.
yeah. I believe it makes you think. And what military people, or many military people, don't do very well is think well.
Mm,
They think they're doing stuff, but they're not actually really getting, into what it is they want to do, or believing in themselves, or looking to the future. And they're just stuck there. That's that sleepwalker piece. They're
mm,
not quite moving, but they know they have to. Um, but by going through some of those different platforms, formulas, whatever you want to call them all, actually makes you start to move. Oh,
mhm.
right, okay, I get that now. Understand that. And just simple things in there like likes and dislikes is it's really
Yeah,
easy to have a look at that. And
yeah,
military people always end up in places they don't want to be. Well,
yeah,
if you've written it's a dislike, why are you going there?
yeah. I think it's
Make up
really
your
easy
mind.
when you're in the army, like you've you accept, you learn quite quickly to accept where you are and be okay with it, which is
Yeah.
actually something that most people on the other side really struggle with. If they're somewhere and they're finding it uncomfortable, is actually being outside their comfort zone.
Mhm.
Um, so that is definitely a strength for most military people that they don't need that that they can just be okay with like the unknown.
Yeah.
But then by the same token, for the first time in your career, perhaps you get to choose what is known, and you can sit back now and have the luxury of going, do you know what? I don't actually like having to travel around all the time. Like I
Yeah.
actually don't like it.
Yeah.
And then you can go, so I'm not going to do it anymore. And then, just yeah, try not to sort of try to stay true to yourself now. Like you've got the opportunity to make those decisions, so make them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And to finish, because I know you're going on a marathon run,
Yeah.
which, good luck with that. Not for me. But the three golden nuggets, if you could leave three nuggets for everybody to use in their transition, what would they be?
So my first one is talk the language of your future company. If you're a hunter, a
Yeah.
bit like me and John, obviously, find out what that company is. Even if they approach you and you think this sounds good for me, go on their website, look at their values, look at their mission, look at their purpose, go on their people's profiles on LinkedIn and just find out the language that they use to talk in their company. And in your head, before you have that interview or before you have like a discovery call or however they engage with you, just have maybe three things that you think, I just want to drop that in. So it might be one of their values. And you can just say, this resonates with me because I'm also like this.
Mhm.
And that will create that sense of like shared value.
Yeah.
And you will find that they will approach you then with a slightly different angle because
Yeah.
firstly you've taken time to invest in their company and secondly you've worked out like why you can see yourself as being a fit there.
Mhm.
It's basically like makes companies feel really like pink and fluffy about you.
Yeah. Mhm.
um my second one would be look at the job description, look at it. This is like the most basic thing that I think people probably recommend everywhere, but like it's so true. Look at the job description and really think like what is it, that what problem or challenge does this company or this role, so that would be like the position that you're applying for, what challenge does it have? And try and imagine, it might be something like bringing equality, diversity and inclusion into the role, or um it might be a position of management where maybe they're struggling to like manage like other people problems and you've got a lot of experience doing that. Just have a look and just try and see through like the facade of the job ad and what the problem will be. Fold your CV in half and solve that problem in the first half. If you can do that as the recruiter's reading, they'll literally just be like, oh yes, That's going to be their thought, and then they won't even read the rest. They'll literally just like, it will be in the yes pile, and then
Yeah,
you'll go from there.
absolutely.
So that would be my second nugget. And then my third one would be about self-belief. So I was literally bricking it the day I went to basic training. My mum and dad were like, your face is white. You look like you've seen a ghost. And I was like, well, I've seen the gates to basic training. So like, obviously I'm terrified. And the amount of um, even getting through there for me was hard. And that's probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life, really. If you can do that, then you've already done something that the rest of the population can't do,
Mm.
which is that. Therefore, you can walk out of the military and into Civvy Street. It's just, you're like, you can do something so incredible now that everyone will respect that. But then it's about blending now and about finding out like how you're gonna then be
Yeah,
with back in Civvy Street. So yeah, you already have what it takes to do it.
yeah. So what I've took from that and written down there was connect, sell, believe. Now, one of the um one of the things that really matches nicely, and you came up with it, was the CV, because I believe that in that first piece, you've got to connect with people. If you don't, people buy people. Everyone says it.
Mhm.
So if you don't connect with your reader, for example, if you're talking about a CV or an interview or whatever, then why do the chances are you're going to have less effect.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
then you started talking about this selling point. Well, straight away, as soon as we've connected, let's sell you.
Mhm.
And that's really, really, really important. And you can sell yourself against what you're going for by doing all the preparation that you're talking about. So and ultimately, to believe in yourself is the one of the biggest problems I see and come across, because people say to me every single day, just what I do, I don't really know what, and I can see it in their face. They have no belief. They don't think they're good enough, and they are. People are extraordinary,
Mhm.
exceptional, and we just bash ourselves down into that place where we just don't believe it. As soon as you come out of that, and it's very,
Yeah.
very easy to be a top class candidate.
Oh,
And
100%. Yeah.
quite clearly, people like yourself who are doing really, really well now just ooze that, and it just comes out, and and this will be a great podcast for people to say, do you know what, I can do this. I really can, and I should, and I need to drive myself forward, and get flex those muscles, and just get myself out there. But
Yeah.
that's been fantastic 30 minutes. I knew this would be a great one, and I knew I wouldn't have to talk much on this one. um but I'm sure people are going to get a lot from this, and by doing this, Emily, I guess you probably won't know how much of a legacy you'll leave. People will listen and watch this because we have lots of people doing that. And if that just one person just picks up on this and then just gets in contact with you, and all of a sudden they've got a job or they've got that experience and that confidence,
Mhm.
then we've done our job really.
Yeah.
And the theory behind doing these things is if we can get 15,000 of these, then we're going to leave a legacy for every single person that leaves, which means they're going to walk paths that are successful for the future. But thank
Yeah,
you so much
definitely.
for coming on. I know your time is, well, your life is busy, lots and lots of things going on, family wise, and also in your jobs and stuff. So, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here, and I can only thank you so much. And I really look
Yeah.
forward to what the future brings and moving forward with some of the plans that we've already spoke about.
Yeah, looking forward to like doing a bit more and hopefully giving people a bit more of like the tech stuff. It'll be really good, really exciting for
Exciting,
me too. So
exciting.
yeah.
Okay, well, I'll leave you to your day
Yeah.
and your run, and I'll speak to you soon. Stay safe.
Yeah, speak to you soon. Thank you so
Okay.
much, John. And yeah, good luck to everyone and get in touch if you need to.
Fantastic. Bye bye. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's Project You, Project Me. Thanks for listening in. But remember, we have a Project You, Project Me guide to self coaching, to self belief, and it can all be downloaded on our website. We also do the 5 fundamentals: CVs, professional writing. We do brand, we do CPD, making sure you're going in the right direction. We're also looking at your elevation, giving you 2 times the chance to set up your interviews before your first actual interview. And also we look at your financial plan, massively important for your future, for you and your family. So why not come along? Have a look. What you got to lose? It's all free. Stay safe.